grief is the last act we have to give to those we loved. Where there is deep grief, there was great love. I read that quote somewhere and I feel like it resonates so much with this episode, or this episode resonates so much with this quote. So I'm glad that we were able to just, incorporate that in this week's episode. Anyways, welcome to the chat with Selassie, and I am Selassie. We have been on a series on a love journey with Kayre and Dave, and this week is the grand finale. We are going to hear how, the story just ended, not ended in a necessarily a bad way, but how everything just came together with Kayre and Dave's story. And if you have been following this journey, this Kayre's journey through she sharing her story with us, you know that the story, her story is quite heavy. She and Dave's story is quite heavy, and we really appreciate Kayre for coming on our channel to just pour out everything that she has shared. Just pour out and just be willing to go there with us, because that is such a vulnerable part of her that she shared with us. And Kayre, we really appreciate you. And for those out there, for all of you who have been watching Kayre's story, we'll appreciate your comments, your love, your empathy. If you can just put something down in the comments showing Kayre some love, that would be great. We'll appreciate that. And yeah, let's enjoy today's episode. Thank you for watching, and this is the chat with Selassie. Enjoy. Prior to the few days, like the last 3 days before he transitioned, I'm assuming that, since he was bedbound, he couldn't, of course, walk. Or before he was bedbound, could he use the bathroom and stuff by himself, or he needed assistance with that?
He needed assistance, but I would still be able to help him.
To go? Oh.
Before he was bedbound.
See? Wow. So on the day that he transitioned, how did it happen? Do you feel like he needed you to give him the permission before he left?
I don't know. People talk about that a lot. Like, someone was waiting for someone to give them permission, or for this person to come, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And maybe I won't know until I'm in that situation, but I don't really know if he had control over that, or if that was just when his body said it's time, or, when God said he was ready. I don't really know. I definitely wanted him to know, like, when he was really having like a really rough time, and he was dealing with all this, like, the anxiety, and like the pain did start to get really bad, and they had to put him on some really powerful medication, which of course everything has the side effects, and you have to take something else to counter the side effects of that. And he was just getting to the point where I'm like, I know this is really a lot for him, and trying to take all these pills, which are hard to swallow, and then all of this, and I wanted him to know that I would be okay, that he, of course his life was too short, but he lived a great life, and I just, at that point, like, I wanted him to be in peace, like, you never want someone to leave, but I knew he wasn't having the full life he deserved at that point. Kind of felt like he was just surviving, and it was hard for him, it was hard for me, it was just, but you know, I don't know if he, because also at this point he wasn't really able to talk, so, you know, I don't know if he was holding on for me, and he couldn't tell me whether he was or not, but I definitely didn't want him to, you know. I just tried to somehow tell him that, you know, he could release whatever, you know, but I don't know. That was just the time.
What time of the day did it happen?
It was like 11 o'clock in the morning, but when I had woken up that day, so we had some caregivers who would come every evening, and they would stay with him overnight. Like, they would stay awake, you know, and sit next to the hospital bed, and, like, you know, if he needed something in the middle of the night, just so I could get some sleep. And because I wasn't getting any sleep, and was just exhausted, just physically and mentally and emotionally. And so I slept in our bed that night, and I was even thinking before I went to bed, I'm like, maybe I should sleep in the hospital bed with him downstairs. And I hadn't initially, because he was having all that anxiety and the tremors and everything, and like constantly waking up, and I wasn't getting any sleep, and that's, you know, when we had people coming to help. But at this point he was, you know, sleeping most of the day, and like he still was aware of me. I'm like, you know, maybe I should stay here, but I didn't. So when I woke up the next morning, the aide, or the person there who was helping us, who stayed up with him, told me that he, you know, had been awake, but he was breathing really, you know, and I could hear him. He was struggling. So it was like that from when I woke up. I don't remember what time that was, but so that went on a few hours. Like I said, I put him on the oxygen. I called the hospice nurse, and then we also had a caregiver who would come during the day, 3 days a week. You know her, Marcia, and so it was her day to come in anyway. So she came as the other caregiver was leaving. So she was with me, and she could tell, she knew that it was coming, that was imminent. And I actually, so she was with me, and she was trying to help me keep him comfortable, and we were, you know, she was like, play some like music, and she was playing some like, you know, Christian music, and tending to him. And I was on the phone with the hospice nurse, so it wasn't the day for the hospice nurse to come in, but she came in, so they were both with me. And then the pastor's wife had texted me that morning just to check in to see how we were, and I told her, I just said, the hospice nurse says, you know, anytime now. And that's it. We didn't have a conversation. I went back to trying to, you know. And so I told all his family, and they took turns like calling and talking to him, just to be like, you know, we love you, son, or love you, brother, and, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, I told my parents as well. And I was supposed to have lunch with my good friend. She was one of my bridesmaids, and she didn't work Mondays, or at least at the time. And so sometimes on Mondays we would have lunch. And because Marcia would come on a Monday, like, I could go have lunch with her. And so I texted her, and I'm like, I'm cancel lunch today. Like, I don't, like, they think Dave could go every time, and I want to be here. And so she said, well, why don't I bring us some lunch, and I'll come over. And I said, okay. So I was with, you know, the two of them, with Marcia and with the hospice nurse.
Your friend?
My friend was on the way, and he passed like 10 minutes before she got there. So it was, but I was I was with people, and so then she came, and so then the three of them were with me, and then when I told the pastor's wife that Dave was in it, I didn't know, but she told her husband, and so he came. I didn't know he was coming. I was just like, they were just like, oh, George is outside. I'm like, George. So Pastor George came in, and so I was with my pastor and my friend Chen and the hospice nurse. You know, did all of that. I had to sign something. I don't know. But they, and then Marcia called Jody, and then she came over, and so I was definitely surrounded by people.
In the moment when it happened, you knew it was going to happen anyway. We all knew that this was inevitable, this was coming. But in that moment, right before your eyes, when you were seeing your husband just laying there, knowing that this is it, there was no talking to him again, there was no him squeezing your hands, there was no seeing him, this was it. How did you feel?
I mean, it was hard, but I would say it's not any harder than the previous 7 months were, because I started grieving long before he died. You know, watching someone die for 7 months, grieving each thing you lose, like his ability to talk to you, you know, his ability to like take care of himself anymore. Because that relationship dynamic did change over time as he was less and less of himself. And so, you know, obviously I still cried and was still sad, but it wasn't, I don't know, when you think of someone's alive, we're happy, then they're gone, and now we're sad.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even a defining moment, almost. Yeah. Like I had been grieving the entire time, and it was almost just a continuation. It was just a different kind of grief, but it was also a relief knowing that he could be at peace.
Yes, and I like that perspective, that he could be at peace. When I lost my mother, that was the only way I could move on, that knowing that she has gone through a lot in life, a lot, has fought a lot of battles and was depressed and was struggling and she couldn't talk about it. Just me knowing that she's at peace now, I think gave me peace to be able to move on and to be able to stand strong as well. Coming back to you, after he transitioned that day, there was a funeral. His family came into town. Was your family able to come as well?
Yes.
They came into town.
My parents and my brother came up.
Let's talk about you. How was life after Dave transitioned and Kayre was Kayre again?
That took a while. I just remember talking to the hospice nurse that day and saying, because my entire life at that point had become taking care of Dave. Like, I didn't have a job. I didn't have anywhere else I went or anything else I did. Like, my existence was devoted to Dave, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now, you know? It was just this weird, surreal, this has literally been my life, and I don't even know what's supposed to happen right now. Like, I don't know how to go back to being Kayre and not Kayre who's with Dave, you know? So that took a while, but through...
What does a while look like? Was it a couple of months, weeks?
Years? I don't know. I don't know. I think it was gradual. Mm-hmm. But through hospice, I had a grief counselor who, like, they offer that service to you for a year after the person has transitioned, and so that was one of the biggest things that helped me. I met with her regularly.
That's a therapist?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Who is very specifically trained in,
Great.
like, yeah, because she works exclusively with the hospice program. So she definitely helped me, I guess, figure out myself again, or like how to move forward. Even my grief counselor, who has talked to a lot of people who've gone through what I've gone through, and even like, you know, my closest friends who are there for me and love me and want to support me, like no one understands how you feel unless they have gone through that. And brain cancer is a very specific thing, and so the support of that group was immense. And I was actually just thinking about it the other day, because I actually last month went to the funeral of a gentleman who I met through that group who had recently passed, and and some other folks from the support group were at the funeral with me, and I was just really thinking about this support group is one of the best things I've ever been a part of in my entire life. Like, it's just been so life-changing. So anyway, it's just kind of tied to your question. I think that also helped me heal and get back to Kayre.
And how long from that did you get back to working? Because I know now you're back. Do you still work with the same company?
I do not. I did go back to working to them.
Oh, wow.
But I got a new job since then.
Wow. How long did it take you to go back? Was it eight months?
We had the funeral 3 weeks after he passed. And then I think a couple weeks after that, I went back to work. I went back to work around Thanksgiving, I think.
And then you went back. How long were you with them before you went to a new company?
So, went back to them probably like November. But then I quit in April of the next year because I felt like, you know, like they weren't rushing me to come back to work. You know, whenever you're ready, my boss like said, I'm going to make sure we have a position for you. But it's also like, you don't know when you're ready. And I'm like, is 2 weeks enough time? Is a month enough time? Like, when am I supposed to go back to work? Like, at some point I need to start making money again, right? Because I wasn't getting, you know, we were living off of his disability. And, you know, I had money saved. I wasn't, like, in dire straits, but, like, I know I need to go back sometime. And I also, just to feel some sense of normalcy, want to go back. But I didn't know, like, when was too soon or whatever. So I did go back because I felt, like, I feel like I can function. Like, I feel okay. It was still, you know, it would get hard some days and I would need to take a break. And my boss was very good with that. He's a great person. But after a while, you know, I was like, you know what? I have, not just for the last 7 months, been full-time taking care of Dave, but for our entire relationship, like for the, like almost 3 years, even though he was living independently for most of that time, I still was his primary caregiver. I still had to drive him to appointments. There were many things that I gave up or I didn't do because of our relationship. And, you know, and I wouldn't go back and do it any other way. I was committed, but at the same time, it's like, I have not done anything for myself in 3 years.
Yeah.
I have been completely, like, been putting this person in this relationship first, and you don't realize how much that takes out of you. Especially the points where it's like, oh, but he's, you know, still doing most of the stuff. I'm not helping him walk to the bathroom or anything. Like, you know, it doesn't, like, obviously in that moment, you know, like, okay, I'm really doing a lot. But for most of the time, it didn't feel like I was doing a lot, but I still was. And, you know, then I stopped doing that, and now I'm working again. And I just felt like, I just want to take a break and not do anything.
And
like,
take care of Kayre.
I've never done nothing before because you just have this expectation, or society has this expectation or whatever, like, you have to be a contributing member of society. Like, you have to be working. And, like, when I wasn't working, no one was going to argue I wasn't being a contributing member of society. Obviously, I was taking care of my husband. but like I just had this idea that I had to be doing one of them, and that's part of why I went back to work. I'm like, well, I can't just sit here. And anyway, I eventually thought, yeah, I can. Like, so I decided, you know what, I'm gonna quit my job, and I'm just gonna take some time. And kind of the running joke was that when people were like, what are you gonna do? I said, I don't know, I'm gonna lay in bed and eat cookies. I didn't really do that, but that was sort of the whatever I want to do, whatever I need to do for Kayre.
To take some time for yourself, to make yourself the center in that moment, correct? To just care for Kayre.
Yeah, so I quit my job last spring, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna take some time. And I still had constantly, the thing no one tells you about death when you lose someone, like everyone tells you about the grief, and you know it's going to be hard without this person, and you know you're going to have to readjust to not being with them and all of that, but no one tells you about all the paperwork. And like, just as being the administrator of his estate, there was just so much, it was just never ending, like just stuff with the mortgage and with taxes and with insurance, and it's just like I felt like I was constantly, and his good friend is a lawyer, and he helped me through all of this, but it was so much. And because my name wasn't on anything. Because,
it wasn't? Oh.
For the most part. I mean, he changed me to the beneficiary in a couple of things, like right when we got married, but like, because like he had the house and it had been in his name forever, and then we got married, but then he was also like dying, like we didn't, you know, deal with it. And so it's like you're dealing with all this grief, but you're also dealing with, I was constantly having to call someone or fill out some form or file something or argue with someone on the phone, and you're like, oh, well, you weren't named as like someone we can talk to, like we need to talk to the person. I'm like, he's dead. Like,
yeah,
it's so wild that you think, surely people have died before. Like all these companies I would talk to, it's like they don't know what to do when the person dies, and like they can't talk to me. So anyway, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna finish dealing with all of this paperwork and all of this just stuff. I'm gonna sell the house, because David always wanted to sell the townhouse. And the only reason we didn't was because he got really sick. And so I've never had an attachment to the house because he wasn't attached to it, and we were always planning to sell it. So I did have to kind of reevaluate that after he was gone. I'm like, should I still sell the house? Should I just live here? But I processed through that and decided to sell the house. So I'm like, I'm gonna quit the job and take this time to deal with, I'm gonna sell the house, I'm gonna buy a new house, I'm going to deal with all this paperwork, and I'm just gonna just relax. And when I feel recovered enough, I will find a new job.
While you were doing all of this and just, you know, taking time away from work, caring for yourself, doing paperwork, selling the house, were you living off of your savings, or did you have any external income coming?
No, just my savings.
Wow, Kayre, you're a strong woman. You're a strong person. And for sure, you've got a lot of love in you, a lot of pure, genuine love. You did truly love Dave, and I know, I'm positive that he felt that love. I'm positive that he did.
And I did have some money from life insurance as well. And I know that, like, Dave's big thing, like, I love working and I'm passionate about what I do, but I know he's the kind of person that if I ever said, I don't want to work anymore, that won't, you know, I'd be happy to like be a stay-at-home wife or something. I know for sure he'd be like, do what makes you happy, I will support you. And like his big thing was always serving other people and making them happy, and you know, me especially since we were together. And so like I knew that he would be happy that I could take some time off, and that, you know, I had my savings and the money that, you know, I essentially got from him to take care of myself, and kind of in some way him taking care of me. So
Wow. Kayre, what would you have to say to someone out there, and this is your camera, by the way, so you can look into the camera while answering that, someone out there who has gone through what you've gone through or something similar, or someone who has even just lost a parent or a child, or dealing with grief, or someone who is even in love and they're both still alive, like with everything you've gone through, moving from happy and all the butterflies and the coffee and all of those little beautiful moments you spent together, to the time that you knew that this was it, I am losing my partner, or I've lost my partner, and he's not going to be here again, or he's not even going to be here to not talk to me again. What would you say to someone out there who resonates with what you've said?
I feel like every situation is different. Even if you have lost someone, even if you've lost a spouse, and the main thing I had to learn is that my grief journey is my own. Your grief journey is your own. There's no timeline. There's no, I would constantly ask my grief counselor questions like, oh, when am I supposed to go back to work? Am I still supposed to wear my wedding ring? Like what, how am I supposed to feel about whatever? And part of me knew there was no real answer she could tell me, but she really emphasized that. And so don't feel like your story needs to match mine or needs to match anyone else's. Just grieve the way you need to. There's no right way to feel. Like sometimes I would be having a really rough day and like hard to function, and sometimes I would feel perfectly fine and like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm not sad. Like if I'm too happy, are they going to think I didn't love my husband? And it's like, you can't think about other people. Think about yourself and your healing, and don't try to do it alone. I would say it's a big thing for me. Find people who support you, whether that's a counselor or a support group, or, for me, there's also my church family and my faith, just some support that keeps you grounded, and just do it in your own time.
Thank you so much, Kayre, for your time. I don't know, a lot of times people go through things like this, or people maybe get divorced, or their heart is broken and they're like, I don't believe in love, or men are this or women are that. Where are you right now in terms of, are you open to love? It may be too soon, the question I'm asking, but I just thought, why not to just ask it. Are you open to love, or are you just the only memory you want to have with love is just you and Dave? Are you open to meeting someone again and having another beautiful story?
Definitely open to it again. I'm not seeing anyone right now, but if the right person comes along, I would, like, Dave will always be a part of my story. I'll never forget him, obviously, but I do know that he would, it's not like moving on, but just moving forward, that he would want me to move forward as well. And I think everyone kind of says that, like, oh, this person would want me to be happy, but like specifically with him, anyone who knows him would know for sure, like, his always just devoted himself for other people to be happy, and just really cared about and valued my happiness and well-being, and I know he would want that for me. So when the time is right, if I find someone, I'd go on a journey with them too.
Yeah. And I am positive, like you said, Dave, from the man you've described and the man I've actually heard of him to be, I'm positive that he would love for you to move forward and to find, or to be found by someone who equally love you, or even love you more, and bring smiles to your face, and bring smiles to you, and just be happy. I'm sure that Dave would want that for you. And it's okay for you to want that for yourself. And I'm happier and I'm glad that you are open to that, that you made yourself available to that, because sometimes when you make yourself available to things, that is when you attract them. I pray and hope that you find the right person and the right person finds you as well. And I pray that the story may be different this time. May you have a lot of laughter, troubles, and a lot of all that you wish for yourself when you do find this person this time. And Dave is gone physically and all that, but like you said, he forever remains in your heart. He's forever a part of your story. Dave is forever a part of, Vineyard Church or the people who know him, because he's left a legacy. And whoever the man out there is for Kayre, oh Lord, you have some big shoes to fill, because this lady has really been loved. Like, Dave has raised the standard, so you better come ready, because she was valued, she was loved, she was put first. So if you're out there and you happen to watch this and you happen to think what I'm thinking about Kayre, that she is very intelligent, she's a smart woman, she's a woman that a man would want around, she's a homemaker. So if you're out there and Kayre is your type, just know that you do have some big shoes to fill. We are going to play a game. I get to ask you 2 questions.
Okay.
And then you get to ask me 1. And don't ask me why you get to ask me only 1. Because I have the privilege of, yes, I'm in charge and I'm the host. So Thank you for knowing that.
I'm ready.
So I'm going to ask you 2 things. The first one is, I really love your natural hair. I think your wedding, you used your natural hair for your wedding, correct? And it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. Like, you wear twists a lot and you wear them so confidently and so beautiful. Like, what is the secret? Because your natural hair always looks healthy. What is the secret?
Wow. I'm glad you think it looks healthy, because I feel like I've struggled with that for a long time. But actually, once the pandemic started and I stopped going to my stylist, because I would go to her every month and she would do my hair, I had to learn all of that on my own. And I dove deep into the natural hair YouTube community and all these things that I learned, and I'm like, how have I had hair my whole life and not known that I should have been doing X, Y, and Z? And I think maybe I just had a lot of time when we were all home to actually dedicate to that, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to spend the time doing like deep treatments and hydration, but I realize all of that is important. I think I wasn't hydrating my hair.
Yeah.
But I don't know. You just have to find the right products and figure out what your hair needs.
Yeah. So that was what you did? That's how you've been able to manage your hair yourself?
Yeah, I guess so.
Did you do the twist yourself?
I did.
Nice.
They were not great at the beginning of the pandemic, but that was like 3 years ago at this point, so I know I'm good at doing twists.
I think that the pandemic has positives as well, because it did definitely made us learn things that we'll usually not do by ourselves and things like that. So I think that it does have its own positives. And then the second thing, do you wear makeup? Because I've never really seen you in makeup, and I will not be surprised if you don't, because you have beautiful skin. She's not wearing any makeup right now, and this is her skin. Like, her skin looks so beautiful. So do you wear makeup?
I don't. I wore makeup at my wedding, and I've been in several other people's weddings, and I wore makeup then. But I don't know.
Is it like a choice? Like, do you have anything against makeup, or?
No, I mean, not like morally against it or anything like that. I just when I was young and like I wanted to be a grown-up and I wanted to wear makeup, and my mom was like, not until you're a teenager. So on my 13th birthday, you know, she did my makeup. I look back at that picture, it was so awful. Like, my lipstick was so bright. I think she was trying to talk me out of that color, but I thought I was, like, the stuff. But, I don't know, I think I just did it that one day, and then I was just like, I guess it was out of my system.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I just never got back into it. As I got older and then became an adult and, you know, it was normal and everyone was wearing makeup,
Yeah.
I don't know.
You didn't care for it.
No, not really.
Okay. All right, your turn.
What do you like the most about doing this show?
What do I like most about doing the show?
Yeah, the chats with Celeste.
That is a very good question. For me, it's very inspiring to hear people's stories and their journeys. Personally, it makes me feel like I'm not alone. And that was one of the reasons why I created this show, is to make each other feel like we are not alone. And it just creates a safe space for me, because while the person is being vulnerable, it gives me the permission to also be vulnerable. It gives someone somewhere the permission to be vulnerable. And even though we may not be able to physically hold each other, but we are holding each other, because I am telling you my process, I am telling you my journey, and I am showing you all the imperfections within it, just for you to know that your life does not have to be perfect, you know. So for me, yeah, that is why I like the show, just exchanging, you know, dialogues and listening to each other's stories and inspiring each other and holding hands, creating safe space. Yeah, that is why I love this show. Yeah. Thank you so much, Kayre. It was a pleasure to have you here. I am so honored that you chose to share your story on my platform. I am so grateful. I'm so thankful for your time. And yeah, everything. Most importantly, I am thankful that you brought Kayre, you brought yourself. You didn't bring something else, or you didn't bring a packaged version of you, but that you allowed yourself be you. You allowed yourself to go there and be vulnerable when you needed, so you did not hold back. Thank you for bringing you.
Thank you for having me. And if I can help or inspire anyone else just by hearing this, then I know Dave would be proud of that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. So today we have come to the end of this episode, and just remembering some of the things that Kayre said. One word that she used a lot that described Dave throughout their dating process was intentionality. Dave was very intentional when it came to Kayre, when it came to their dating process. And I am thinking that in this era, how many people are not intentional? Like, you find people dating nowadays and there is no intentionality, there is no consistency. We don't have to settle for something that is not consistent. We don't have to settle for a person that is not intentional. You deserve someone that is intentional about you. You deserve someone that will show consistency throughout, from when you met until whenever, until the end. You deserve that. And how do you find that? By not settling for something that looks like consistency, by not settling for something that looks like intentionality, but by actually accepting something that is intentionality and is consistent. So allow yourself to see things clearly. Don't let anything cloud your judgment. Because if Kayre didn't allow herself to see clearly, she wouldn't have even, because Dave didn't tell her that, hey, I'm being intentional dating you. But she was able to see clearly that, this man is intentional. So I hope that we allow ourselves to see clearly. I hope that we'll listen, because that's one of the things that I learned from Dave and Kayre, was that Dave was very attentive, and Dave was really listening to Kayre. Therefore, when it came to giving her a gift, he was able to give her a very meaningful gift. So I hope that we all find such a love, such a beautiful, love that is attentive, that is intentional, and that is very consistent. This is the chat with Selassie, and I am Selassie. I'm so grateful that you stayed through today's episode. I hope that you did not enjoy this episode by yourself, or even if you did, it's not too late. Just send it, share it to your friends, your family. Whoever you want to share it with. And don't forget, we are continually building this community, right? So if our content resonates with you, we would love for you to be a part of this community. And just join us in inspiring one another and just living our truth. That was a mouthful to say, but thank you so much for your time. I hope that you have a wonderful week. Don't forget to be yourself.